Welcome, Rodny. Welcome to our webinars.
Thank you, Mohit. Thank you from the other side of the world. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. From the most beautiful part of the Netherlands, I'd say. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, welcome and meet Rodny. He's here to talk to you about Tessel. I'm going to say Tessel because that's the right pronunciation, but it's also Texel, Texel, and it's a hotspot for bird watchers, for birding on this planet, which Rodney is going to talk about. Let me know if you can hear me clearly and if you can hear Rodney clearly. If you can just type yes in the chat box, then I know that I'm clearly audible. Welcome Mahendraji, welcome Meera, welcome Dr. Geeta Mathur, Shivaji, Judith, Nanita ji, welcome my friends. We have many people here today wanting to meet Rodney and listen to his story of Tessel. This is going to be so interesting. And you can see that Rodney is my young friend who's studying, and he is going to finish his graduation soon. And he is right now being trained in business administration. Let me read out his introduction to you quickly. Then you know exactly what I'm talking about. His short introduction. So Rodny Stolk is a 19-year-old birder from Tessel in the Netherlands. Rodny studies business administration and watches birds in all his free time, alone or with other Dutch young birders. Rodny is an employee of the Bird Information Center at Tessel, which is known in the whole country by its birding and binocular activities. He recently joined the organization of the Warden Bird Festival and always enjoys sharing people the stories about birds. He does this via guiding tours on the island. Rodny is one of the writers of the new Tessel Bird Guide and Checklist. Rodny, I'm really proud of you on that. It's a fantastic job done. Yeah. In this webinar with Rodny, he will tell you all about birding life on the island and all the activities that take place on the island for birders and for tourists. And friends who don't know me yet, I am Mohit Aggarwal. I'm an experiential ecotourism specialist with a deep love for nature. I help people travel to some wonderful places in Asia. I'm on the board of Asian Ecotourism Network, and I've been trained and certified by GSTC Sustainable Tourism. I'm the founder of Asian Adventures, a 27-year-old travel company. It is the largest bird watching tour company in India. I'm also the founder of NatiNeta, a value email marketing company that is working towards strengthening communication for wildlife outfits and ecotourism outfits as well. These companies are on a large mission to help Asian elephants with their corridors, free the Himalayas of plastic waste, help small wildlife NGOs, and conserve the ancient Himalayan shrines. So friends, let me tell you that I've been to Tessel twice already with a very dear friend of mine, Mark Hout. And I think first time was in 2010 and then it was 2013. I'm not exactly sure which year, but it was the month of May, and I left Delhi, which was 42 degrees then, or around that much. And when I reached Tessel, it was freezing. Okay. So it was 20 degrees, or maybe, no, it was less than 20 degrees. So it was freezing for me at that time. But it was full of birds. And there were hundreds of the photographers, some of them on foot, some of them in their cars, some of them on bicycles, and they were all over the place. And this place is strewn with wetlands, and it's a little island which you have to go to in a ferry, large ferry, and it's quite an experience. So I'm going to now, I'm not going to unbundle it for you. Let Rodny do that. So over to you, Rodny. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mohit. Welcome, everybody. I will start the presentation. I hope you can all see it right now. And I can Very good. Welcome. Thank you, Mohit, and thanks everybody for being here. I'm, as already said, Rodny Stolk, and I work at the Bird Information Center on the island. I also live on the island, and in all my spare time, I do some birding. I have some really good memories and still have about all the birds on the island, all the rare birds we are always looking for with young birders. And today I will shortly talk to you about Tessel, which is known for its birds, but also a bit to its birding conservation. So let me take you on the journey. In the meantime, if there are any questions you need to ask, please just type them in the chat, and I will reply as soon as possible. I'm delighted to be here, and from all over the world, I see some people from the UK, some Dutch people, and from all over the world, I see some people, and that's really nice to see. In the dark background, you see the lighthouse of Tessel with the dunes. It's one of the icons of the island, but I know it especially for the nice spot to spot rare birds in the dunes that are over there. It's a really nice spot to see. If you ever have the chance to be there, go to the lighthouse and enjoy. For today, I will shortly introduce myself any further, but Mohit already done that a little bit, and then I will talk about the island, all kind of statistics and things that are important for me and for the Bird Information Center, all the birds on the island. And then I will talk shortly about the Bird Information Center, and then about the foundation on the island that is there for the birds, but also for the birders. After which I will continue with the Wadden Bird Festival. It's a unique festival, and I hope you are so enthusiastic you all come to the Wadden Bird Festival. And lastly, I will talk about the conservation of the birds, which is, of course, very important. I try to point out all the birds that are in the slides. So at the top left, you will see the short-eared owl, and right to it, the Eurasian spoonbill. Below that, the heavily endangered European turtle dove and the Eurasian oyster catcher. All birds that are seen on the island. So more reasons to come here. So about me, I'm 19 years old, almost 20. I was born and raised on the island. I always loved the island and have a strong connection to it. And since 2017, I am a birder, as you might call it. I always say I'm infected by the birding virus by some friends in my former class on the island, and from there on, it went upwards in knowing all about the birds, and that's really nice. That in 4 years I can already tell a lot of birds on the island. I study business administration near Utrecht, in the middle of the Netherlands, and on Saturdays and in holidays I work at the Bird Information Center on the island. So that's who I am. But more important, my favorite birds. I see the photos are a bit switched, but on the top left, you'll see the northern gannet, one of the birds you can see at the North Sea, at the eastern side of the island. You can see a lot of northern gannets if you watch with a telescope. Next to that is a parrot swift. It's actually quite rare on the island, but in the last few years we've seen our first first birds on the island, and also in the Netherlands, because 30 years ago we didn't even know about the bird. And it's so special to me because the pellet swift was one of the first rare birds I discovered on the island. And I was then only birding 1.5 years, and then finding the 16th bird for the whole Netherlands. So that's really a great story for me to tell, that I can really discover a pellet swift. And next to that, one of the icon birds of the island, a Eurasian spoonbill, with its enormous spoonbill all over the island. We have 4 breeding colonies on the island now. And below that, one of my favorite birds, the common swift, that is very present on the island, quite a few breeding pairs. And that's really such a wonderful bird, and such an amazing bird to see. Because, it's amazing how fast he is and how much of the time he spends in the air. So to continue about what Mohit was already talking about, one of my prides, it was just released a week ago. I have it next to me, Vogels van Tessel in Dutch, Birds of Tessel. It's a field guide and a checklist with over 400 species in it. And I can show you what it's all about in the next slide. First, you have all the small areas on the island, and it is told which bird species are there. And also a QR code with waarneming.nl. It's a Dutch site in which all observations are put in by all birders. It's similar to what Europe knows as observado.org. So if you scan this QR code, you will know what birds are seen there in that specific area. And then you start with the real field guide, and with over 1,800 photos and small descriptions, you can see which bird you saw on the island. Not all birds are common on the island. As you can see, the red lines over there make sure that it is a rare bird, so you don't often see it. And in the top left, you can have a small dot if you have seen it, and in which month you have seen it. So I'm really proud to present that to you, and in cooperation also with Mark Guit, Mark Plomp, who was the boss of the Bird Information Center, and Arnold Meijer, who made up all the book altogether. So that's really nice to see. Just a small impression about some warblers, rare and common on the island, and that's really nice to show to you. To talk about the island, Tessel is known for its unique position on the Dutch coastline, and it's surrounded by water. On the east side, you have the North Sea, and on the west side, the Wadden Sea. And especially that Wadden Sea is so important and so magical to tell about, because as you see in the left side, you see all the small salt marshes and tidal flats in which all kind of waders sit on and feed itself and rest on its way to their breeding grounds or to their winter grounds. And that's really a unique selling point of the Wadden of Tessel, because nowhere else in the world there's such an area as the Wadden Sea in which so much waders are gathering all together in a small spot. And Tessel is actually a sort of extension of the Dutch coastline. And you can see that also in the migratory route, which I will talk about later. On the east side of the island, you have a lot of dunes and beaches, which protect the island in a dynamic way. And on the west side, on the Wadden side, You have a lot of dikes, which are very heavy and cannot be moved. So that's a really static image between Tessel and the outer space of the Wadden Sea. And I think I can tell you that almost 1 to 1.2 million tourists come to the island every year, while there are only 14,000 inhabitants on the island. So with these 14,000 people, we have to accommodate 1 to 1.2 million tourists. And that's, well, just phenomenal on one side, but it also has its impact because the island is only 463, I had to peek, square kilometers. So that means that a lot of tourists have to be on a small space combined with all the birds. And that's the really heavy thing to do. How can you still invite tourists while you also have to expand your nature, because it's so important for the breeding grounds on the island, for all the rare birds that are there, that they can still be on the island without being disturbed by all kind of tourists and their dogs and all kind of distractions to that. But we've managed, and later on I will talk about the conservation, how Tessel has performed this in such a magical way. But tourists are so welcome that we can show them the birds. And we are so proud of at the Bird Information Center as well that we can invite all tourists to watch birds on a safe way while not disturbing those same birds. And the bird is known on the east side, as I already told you, to the sea. After that, there are some beaches. After that, there are some dunes, and then it continues into a forest, to fields and meadows. There are 7 villages on the island, at which the largest village, I think, contains around 7,000 people, inhabitants. So that's a small village to speak in Dutch terms. But important for this conversation, we have all kind of different nature reserves as high tide refuges for all the waders and other coastal tide birds, but also a lot of nesting grounds for example, terns, and all the small birds in the dunes and those areas. And at the east side of the island, you also have some dikes, which is the protection to the Wadden Sea. But it has the amazing effect of you sitting on that dike with a telescope, with your binoculars, and seeing vast clouds of waders going by. So that's really amazing to see. Some photos of it. At the top left, you see the Wadden Sea at the low tide with all its sand, and in that mud areas, all kind of waders are gathering. On the top right, you will see the sandwich terns that are breeding on the island. In vast majorities, for the last 10 years, we are very proud to invite almost 5,000 breeding pairs on the island. And that's pretty rare in the Netherlands, because only 3 to 5 spots in the Netherlands contain these sandwich terns. Bottom left is the dike and the Wadden Sea, and the bottom right is the dunes. And in that dunes, you have some breeding pairs of Eurasian curlew, and the hen harrier still breeds on the island. On the island, we have three pairs of hen harriers, while in the whole Netherlands, there are only 8 pairs. So that's really to be proud of as an island. Over here, you can see this top left is the small village of Den Horen, also with its birds, such as sparrows and swifts that are over there. Top right, again, that amazing tide and that amazing view on the sunset with a small boat with all kind of waders that you can see. Bottom left, you see some salt marshes that are also really unique in its selling point, because some spoonbills still breed there, but it's very vulnerable. If there's one really high tide, you'll see that all those spoonbills are washed away and the eggs will not hatch. So it's a really vulnerable but natural way of nature of the Netherlands, and that's really rare to see. On the bottom right, you see the amazing beach. As Mohit already told you, it's really cold on the island, but in the summer you'll have 25 to 30 degrees, so you can lie comfortable on that beaches. Behind that, you see the North Sea, which has a lot of, as I already told you, northern gannets, common eiders, and occasionally some divers and shearwaters. So with your telescope, you can sit there and watch all kind of birds. About Tessel and its birds, as I already told you, it's so important that Tessel is on the migratory route. And the Wadden Sea is such an important factor for that migratory route, because birds on their winter grounds going to their breeding grounds, or at the other way, have to go to the Wadden Sea to feed and to rest. So it's really nice. And on the west side of Texel, you also have the North Sea, but in between, in all the dunes and forests, you see all kind of warblers and other migratory birds, such as the blue throat. You see on the picture. The other picture is the red knot, which will come back later. And there are also some birds that never leave, but are never boring. On the top left, you see the Eurasian oyster catcher with some chicks, and a robin. That's really a really common bird on the island. It's a European robin, and a mallard, and a Eurasian wren. All very common birds, but they are still beautiful in its own way, and we never get tired of it. The best time to visit Tessel, that's really a good question I see coming by. And Mohit already answered it. It's April or May for the photography, and you can see all the small birds as well. All the chicks are then hatching. All the breeding grounds are there and are really active. And the September, October is for serious birding and the rare birds, which is what we as young birders all like to see. Rare birds from America, from Siberia. It must be from very far away. That's something the young birders in the Netherlands really appreciate, but it's rare to find. So as Mohit told you, that's the best time. About that red knot, it's so amazing, that story about that red knot that comes to the Wadden Sea, to the star in the middle, because from all kind of places he comes. From Siberia, goes to South Africa, but he has to stop at the Wadden Sea. And that's one of the subspecies of the red knot. The other subspecies comes from Alaska, has to stop at the Wadden Sea to rest and to feed, goes to Mauritania. So that's really amazing. Sorry. And the Waddensee is a place for all kind of dead waders, and such as the red knot. It loses almost 50% of its weight in a 14 days journey from Alaska to the Waddensee. And it has to eat all that weight back again to continue to its breeding grounds or back to its winter grounds. So that's really amazing. The rarest bird I found on the island, it was a pellet swift, and I hope to see many more important rare birds. But I'll come later to some rare birds that are seen in the last year. But that's almost on the end of the presentation to enjoy. The Bird Information Center on the island. It's so amazing to work here. And the core business now of the Bird Information Center is, of course, telling people about birds and birding with that field guide, with all kind of other information about the best spots to watch birds, about some recognition about some bird species, and some other activities such as guided bird tours. But another very important thing is the sale of other field guides and other binoculars. And with that binoculars, you can enjoy your bird life even more. So we want people that come here for a binocular to go back with a binocular they feel happy with. And the most impressive part of it all, and maybe Mohit already has also seen it, is the collection of stuffed birds that we have. Most of the birds are from the island, but some of them are also some rare owls that are from captivity. But children really love to see this. But adults do too. I'm sorry. Some pictures. It's a big blue house, but it's amazing next to it what kind of store is behind it. Some clothing and a lot of books, some nesting boxes for breeding birds, and the collection of stuffed birds. It's amazing to see this. I'll let you take a quick look to it. And at the top right, you see the owner of the store, Mark Plomp, who is preparing one of the newest Swarovski NL Pures. And we have a vast collection of binoculars. People can test, because our main message is to bring across those amazing birds, and the best way to do that is by binoculars, by selling binoculars and enjoying nature even more. This is something else. This is called the Marel. It's the Tessel name for the bare-tailed godwit. It's a new center in cooperation with a local, a national organization that preserves nature. We opened a new location to inform people even more. At the middle of the island in Walenburg, it's a really big area in which a lot of birds breed. With also some space for children to play and to enjoy nature. So that's really nice, and it has only opened for, I think, 1.5 months now. So it's all really new, and it's a new experience. As Indian, our ears rise up on hearing stuffed birds for sale. I can see that. Okay, but those are not for sale. It's a really nice collection, but we cannot sell them. then Mark will not be happy. The guided bird tours. It's an amazing part of the Bird Information Center. We give guided birding tours for 2 or 3 hours, with or without a bus. And all the profit from that bird tours go to the Foundation for Birds and Birders on the island, Stichting Tessel Vogeleiland in Dutch, the Foundation for Birders and Birders on the island. And it receives funds from those guided bird tours, but also from the One and Bird Festival, which I will talk about later. Some particular items sold in the Bird Information Center, and small donations or subsidies. And this foundation helps Tessel and its birds by the creation of new spots on the island from which people, and especially birders, can watch birds from. They do this because when we can put our people, our birders, in a safe spot where they can watch birds on a safe way, they don't have to enter the breeding grounds, and they don't have to disturb the birds in their natural habitat. So that's really a direction we want to steer them into without disturbing any people. Next to that, they also have the advancement of knowledge on the birds of Tessel and all the important aspects related to this. So that's also on the other side, which we do at the Bird Information Center. But we hope to learn not only children, but all the people on the island, whether they are tourists or inhabitants, about how amazing birds can be. That story that I told about the red knot, how can you not find that amazing? That's really what we try to bring over. And the statement of by promoting the richness of birds on the island, we create awareness of this amazing but fragile life of birds. The foundation creates safe spots from which people can watch birds, so that vulnerable breeding areas on the island can be closed off. That's a really powerful statement, but it's so true. At the top left, you see a really easy way of letting people know what is happening. It's a small sign that says, here are some birds breeding, don't enter. Next to that, a small keychain is made, a personalized keychain, which can be sold here at the Bird Information Center, and the whole profit goes also to the foundation. Bottom left is an example of how all the birders on the island are set into the amazing spots to watch birds of prey and those animals on days that are nice for those birds of prey. The bottom right, you can see is nest boxes for the house martins, which is a project we did a few years ago, so that more house martins were able to breed on the island. On the top left, you see a common house martin breeding. And next to that, you see two parts of, it's in our birding spots, bird viewing screens from which you can safely watch the birds. There are also some spots made on that breeding grounds with shells, which are really good breeding grounds for terns and plovers. So that's also an activity we do and we try to stimulate. And one of the biggest resources for the foundation is the One Bird Festival. It's one of the most amazing events, if I may say, that promotes birds on the island, in the Wadden area, and it's all located on Tessel. It's a festival for everybody that is interested in birds on the island and beyond. And it's not only for the birders that already know the birds, but it's also for people that don't know about birds, but want to know about birds. It's on Texel. It's the second weekend of May each year. So if you want to come to the island in May, make sure you do it in this weekend, because a lot of birders, maybe 1,000 birders are on the island, and then you also have the people that want to know about birds. So it's a big festival. And in that weekend, there's a big local market. It's focused on birds and nature. You also have a lot of evening programs with lectures about birds and research. 3 nights. And on the Friday night, you eat all together in normal situations. Unfortunately, due to Corona, we couldn't organize these amazing events for the last 2 years, but we hope we can do it next year again. And on all the spots on the island are volunteers who can tell you all about the birds that are on that spot. And that's really one of the strong points. All those 14,000 inhabitants and all those tourists that are on the island can go to those people and ask everything they want. Can I see that bird? Can I see that bird? Where is that bird? And it's really amazing to see how people that are normally never enthusiastic about birds because they are only irritating, or I don't know what your argument is, really become interested because it's so accessible to everybody. We also do a lot of guided bird tours in that weekend to learn people about how to recognize all those birds. The most important part of the Wadden Bird Festival is the Tessel Big Day. It's 24 hours. It's a race on bikes, only on a bike. You cannot go with a car, between all kind of teams that all want to see the most bird species in 24 hours. But that's a challenge. But besides that, they also have to raise as much money as possible for the charity for that year. So it's so nice to present to you that in 5 years, we have raised over 50,000 euros for different species that have a difficulty breeding on the island or a difficulty breeding in the Netherlands. In 2017, all bird species that have difficult breeding on beaches, all those teams gathered 6,500 euros. In 2018, for the common house marting, as I already told, almost 15,000 euros was raised on the Tessel Big Day edition. 2019, again, 16,000 euros for birds that have difficulty breeding in the dunes. And in 2020, of course, the world was in a COVID-19 pandemic, but we made sure there was a home edition of the Big Day, which meant that within your home, you can watch for half an hour or 24 hours, doesn't matter, but you have to raise money for that European turtle dove that is going extinct. Almost 8,000 euros in COVID-19 times was raised for that single charity. This year, again, almost 8,000 euros was raised for birds that have difficulty breeding on the countryside over the whole Netherlands. So it's so amazing to see that almost 50,000 euros was raised in just 5 years. And it's being done by, I think, 30 or 40 teams that love birds and want to see as many birds in 24 hours. But yeah, if you want to see as many bird species as possible, you have to make sure that those bird species stay alive. So you have to gather some money to make sure that all those bird species are still there. And the record for one day for 24 hours is set on 155 species on the bike within 24 hours on Tessel. That's really amazing to see. Maybe Mohit can tell that Mark Guit is the left one on the bike. Very, very enthusiastic because we raised so much money and we are so enthusiastic about the goal and the aspiration for birders to put a lot of effort into raising money for all the birds. It's really amazing to see. And I hope you agree on that. These are some of the birds that have difficulty and we have raised money for in the last 5 years. Top left, there's a little tern. Really has a lot of difficulty breeding on beaches. And we made sure that there were some spots on the beaches of Tessel where they could breed safely without any dogs or people disturbing them. The European turtle dove is right next to it. It's still really going bad with that species, but this week an announcement was made that Spain was not shooting any of those turtle doves this year. So that's really a good effort to see, and we hope a lot of European turtle doves come back to the island. 10 years ago, there were 8 to 10 breeding pairs, and we have to be lucky now to have 3 birds left every year. So that's a really steep decline of the bird. Next to that, top right is the common house martin, who is doing now very well on the island because he has a lot of nest boxes on the island now. Bottom left is the hen harrier, that is really a difficult species. It's breeding in the dunes and it needs to enhance its breeding chances. Next to that, the grey partridge, who is not present on the island, but in the 2021 edition, we paddled through the whole Netherlands. So we made sure that also people not living on the island have some opportunities to raise money for that grey partridge. And in that year, we also raised money for example, the Eurasian curlew. And in the middle, it's the first year we did together with that little tern. It's a Kentis plover, and we hope to see that species back breeding on the island. But we still have to make sure that happens on the beaches. But we can see a little bit of effort coming in. Some more Kentis plovers are coming to the island, and we hope many more to come. And we hope you can also see those birds on the island when you have the opportunity to come to the island. The conservation of birds on Tessel. As I already told you, it's really important to create awareness on birds on the island, how vulnerable birds can be on the island. And we do this partly by closing areas on the island that are difficult breeding grounds or where those birds have to have a little rest. So those are really reserves that are just for the birds and not for the people. And people have to accept that, and they will, and they do. With the bird guided tours, we also make sure that the enjoyment of birds is done on regular roads. You don't have to go off those roads to see birds. Birds are everywhere. So why should you go into a closed area to see those birds? If they want, they come to you. And that's the main message we want to bring across to all those people that go on a guided bird tour. Just wait, and then the birds come to you instead of you coming to the birds and maybe disturbing them. There's also a code of conduct made for birders on Tessel. There's also one for birders in the whole Netherlands, but on Tessel, the main message is don't disturb any people or birds, because when a rare bird is seen, you may know that birders try to get to that bird in any way possible, but you have to behave correctly. And the last, most beautiful thing is the creation of new breeding areas. And it's really amazing to tell you that there is a new boulevard created for birds on the east side of the island. Next to the dike, all kind of little reserves are made. Over here you can see Utopia. It's the name Utopia because it's the first new breeding ground for sandwich terns, in which those birds have all the space they need. And it's created just 10 years ago. On the left side, you can see the dike, and the village is is pretty near, but you can see that they have enough space. This is another area. It is called in Dutch Wagenjot, where you can also see the village of Oosterend nearby. But it's also next to the dike. A lot of rare waders have been seen there. But it's also one of the biggest spots for sandwich terns to breed. I see a question coming in: how do you create new breeding areas? It's a combination of a few things. You have to create a bit of rest, and these areas, in this area, you can see small islands are made in which no predators, ground predators can come to, because they are all surrounded by water. So those terns really like to stay on an island where no predators on the ground can be there. It's so difficult to say what is the key factor for birds to come to those breeding areas. But if you create the right conditions, and a lot can be done in the 21st century, you can create conditions that are best for those species, and in turn they will come. And if we go a little bit backwards, you see a small card. This is something we also made this year with those 60 spots where you can view birds on a safe way. And we made this for people to know where you can watch those birds safely. Utopia and Wagenjot, as I already told you. And it's just amazing to see, if you are here, how much birds can gather over here. This is the spot where 5,000 breeding pairs of sandwich terns are breeding there for the last few years. And without creating this area, sandwich terns would never have turned to this small islands in an island. But now they do. Dutch Birding, it's one of the biggest organizations in the Netherlands for birders, for those people that want to see rare birds all through the Netherlands. And it's a really tight community. Most people know each other, and I don't know how that is in the rest of the world, but over here I think there is a part that is so enthusiastic. They see each other almost every day because they are at a rare bird somewhere in the Netherlands. And I picked last year to show you two of the birds that were on Tessel and where the whole Dutch birding network had to come to the island to see this bird. I'll let you have a small moment to think about what this bird could be. It's an American warbler, and it's so amazing to see that this species was only 500 meters next to the Bird Information Center. And it's a black-poll warbler. So amazing to see. The first time it is in the Netherlands in history, and that all on the island of Tessel. Something also really nice, the second for the Netherlands ever, also on the island, around a kilometer further than the Bird Information Center. And this is a green warbler. The greenish warbler is also rare, but a little more common. Every year you see a few greenish warblers, but that green warbler is really rare, and it is found by a dear friend of mine, also a young birder, same age, 90 years old, was walking into the forest and saw this green warbler. Amazing, right? And I want to close off with Tessel. That Tessel is a birding island. I can't say it enough. Because by reuniting the birders, creating awareness under the residents and tourists on the island, actively protecting the vulnerable spots for birds, and creating new breeding or resting opportunities for birds on the island, the native Tessel birders make sure that birds never want to go and birders never want to leave. And on that notion, I want to close off and thank you for listening. I see there are still some questions coming on, so I'll just quickly scroll to it. What other materials other than wood were used to make swift nests in earlier slide you displayed? It's a sort of cement. It's a rough cement it's made of for the common house martin. So that's really good to see. I'm sure there are more species in September and October than why the bird fair in May. That is because the weather is much more nice in May. It's much better weather then. And next to that, in September and October, there is also a Dutch birding weekend organized by the Bird Information Center and Dutch Birding for that Dutch birding network. But instead of all the birds breeding there in October, you only see the small rare warblers such as the black-poll warbler I just showed you. So that's maybe also a reason to go in May, because the weather is much nicer, but also the birds are more showing off, and the typical species are then still on the island, and they may leave in September, October to Africa, to south of Europe, to do their winter over there, because in winters, September, October, it's already 10 degrees out here. So Mohit would have found it very cold in September and October. I think those were the questions I just saw. Do I miss something? I don't think so. Mohit.
Yes. What a wonderful webinar. What a wonderful session, Rodny.
Thank you.
You're a true ambassador for Texel. I think It's fantastic. Why don't you put your email ID and let people get in touch with you?
Yeah.
Type your email ID in the chat here, because I'm sure that the moment it opens and the flights start, people would want to come to Texel,
Yeah.
and to meet you and to see your projects and all the fantastic jobs that the birding community is doing there.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful island. I've been trying to get there for the last few years, and my first 2 trips were absolutely fantastic. I've got very, very special memories of this place. It's so, friends. What you need to do is get to Amsterdam, and then drive for about 2.5 hours. I can't remember, and then you take a ferry from one particular point to Den Haag, right? Yeah. And then on the other side, it's fantastic because it's a very small island, and you could hire bikes, cycles to go around. And those, Indian Bollywood old style cycles are also there, where 2 or 3 people can ride one cycle, with each one of you paddling at the back. So it's a lovely place to hire cycles, and that's one way of traveling on the island, where you can easily keep your gear, with a backpack, and stop whenever you want to. And then, and the food is fantastic, and there are these little homestays strewn about. Mark Tromp and Rodny and all the information center can help you with that. And well, let me tell you, this is all dated information. I went there, last was 2013, so much has changed since then. And write to Rodny and get his information straight in your inbox. And I know that a lot of Indians would like to get there. And these are all good conservation examples that we can pick up from, not just birding, but also the kind of work that they're doing and the observatories they have, and the kind of, equipment testing field that Mark Plomb has in his backyard. We get lots of birds. It's a beautiful place. And I really want to thank each one of you to be here today, to listen to Rodny, especially people who don't live in Europe and who are in Southeast Asia or South Asia. For them, although it might be a long haul, but I'm telling you, it's worth every minute, every penny that you spent. So don't miss this. And then you understand that Rodny is a very important halt for many species and during migration. And that itself, makes it very, very popular.
I thank you, and I thank you all to also for your nice comments. I see you all liked it, and as Mohit already told, just email, just contact me, and we'll make sure that your Tessel visit will be something you'll never forget.
Fantastic. And Rodny, I am absolutely amazed that how young you are, and you are now taking this entire thing on your shoulders to take it forward, to take the cause of Tessel forward, to take the cause of birding, and to bring out this book is hugely commendable. So many congratulations, my friend.
Thank you.
And you should just continue to move forward at the same speed, and give my warmest regards to Mark, and to Arnold, who's a friend of mine too, from Katwijk. And so tell them I love them all. Thank you.
I will do.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Bye bye.